and welcome to episode 16 of Mads World. I'm your host Mads, and Mads World is the People's podcast, and I love hearing from you all, so please get in touch with any stories or thoughts of your own and tag me in your Instagram stories when you're listening to Mads World, because I really love to see that. This week we're discussing what it's like to move to another country and some tips and tricks on moving from Australia to the UK. This podcast will be your go-to guide to moving to London if you've been pondering it for a while, with some really helpful pointers towards the end. I guess I should start with my own story of moving to London. So I moved from Melbourne to London 4 years ago now on a 2-year visa, and after falling in love with the place, I swapped to an ancestry visa that lasts for 5 years. I travelled all over Europe before settling in London and starting my new job and meeting some of the greatest people I've ever known on this side of the world. Up next is my chat with the wonderful Will, a fellow Australian living in London who I met at a party hostel in Budapest, and he has some cracking stories which you're absolutely going to love. Hello, Will.
Hello, Mads. How are you doing?
I'm good, or as I like to call you, Will Beleen. Maybe he's born with it, maybe it's Will Beleen.
Thank you. Thanks for you and Nikki for giving me that nickname. I truly feel glorious because of it.
Right, let's go straight into the speed date round so everyone can get a bit more of an idea about Will. So how did you and I first meet? I'm buzzing to hear this story.
We met at one of the best party hostels in the world, and unfortunately it sadly passed away, Retox, in Budapest. The reason that Maddie talked to me to begin with was that I was wearing a band t-shirt, and I went on dates with that lead singer and he was a dick. So
we can't reveal the name of the lead singer on the podcast, but he's from an Australian band, which a lot of you would know, so perhaps that can be its own podcast, but I just don't really want the Australian media coming at me, so
no one needs to know. That's why I left it. I left the band name and that. But you saw it and you went, I know that. I know that.
Oh, God. Yeah, so we met in Budapest at a hostel called Retox, which is now sadly said goodbye thanks to COVID. So, yeah, how long have you been in a relationship?
I've been in a relationship for 2 years on Monday. So
has it been that long?
I know, time flies. Time flies.
That's madness.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Through the ups and lockdowns.
Before that, how often would you say you go on dates?
I think I had like a standard kind of our generation relationships with the dating apps. Like sometimes I'd have like a flurry, and then other times I'd be like, I am not talking to anyone for months.
Yeah, it all depends on your self-esteem and how that's going with dating apps, doesn't it?
100%. There gets to a point and it just happens that you like say hello, or like I used to say cats or dogs on Tinder or Hinge just to try and get a response. And you write cats or dogs for like the third time in a day and you're like, actually, I'm out here. Like, I'm going to delete this app.
I'm going to peace out.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your usual type? So what kind of girl were you looking for before you met your girlfriend, who is stunning?
I think usual type for me, like, personality is really important. So, like, I love someone that I can just have fun with, like dance and sing around, and, like, we can just make shitty little jokes with each other. And
yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And, like, having that friendship and stuff that you can find in someone, because at the end of the day, everyone gets ugly when they get older. So you just have to find someone who you can have a good conversation with.
Yeah, I mean, from where I'm from in Australia, there was always like a lot of old people that would like tan on the beach, and I was like, it hits you. No matter how you look when you're 20s, it hits you.
Yeah, it does. And last question, what is the best thing about being in a relationship?
Definitely the companionship, like definitely having that person that you can kind of like just trust, and I think that's what makes our relationship really strong, is that we both value each other's opinion really like highly, and can we look forward to kind of growing together, because we know that we've got like our number one supporter together.
That's so nice.
Oh no, that was a bit cheesy when I finished saying that.
I love that.
She's going to hear this and just roll her eyes at me.
Oh, that's too precious. All right, well, I've asked you on the podcast because, like me, you've moved to London, you just threw caution to the wind, you put yourself in the deep end, and it was kind of like sink or swim. So you've got a fantastic story of a bad date that you had, because this is a dating podcast, despite everyone begging me to let them know some info on how to move abroad and how to not drown. So do you want to, I'll throw over to you and you can tell your story of your bad date and we'll go from there.
No problems. I mean, I think like everyone, you kind of hit the ground running in London. You like get to the new environment. You're like, I am swiping right. That's just happening here. So I met this girl on Tinder, and we organised to get a date in that night, which was pretty quick. It was a Friday night, so we tried to kind of get it moving pretty quickly. And I rocked up to this place to go meet her, and it was a pretty trendy place, and I thought she would be pretty cool, and she was all right looking and things like that. So I was like, okay, we could be on for a good date here. And then it just kind of, personality mesh wasn't there, unfortunately. Like, she was pretty intense and things like that. And it kind of got to the end of the night, and I was like, geez, I really need to look for my exit here. I really need to kind of say thank you very much for your time and
get out of there.
Yeah. And so it was getting to the end of the night, and then she goes, oh, do you know that I'm a traveller? And I said, no, I don't know that you're a traveller. And I go, oh, so what does this mean? And she goes, oh, I didn't actually like kind of move around with my family, but like we practiced all the religion and things like that. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And yeah, so it was a bit odd that it kind of came out of nowhere. And then she said, can I sing you a traveller folk song? And we're sitting in this very trendy East London pub. Like, it's called Nettle 360. So if anyone does move to London, exactly, it's very trendy and it's very public. It's this beautiful rooftop in East London. Recommend. Anyway, so she starts singing me this folklore song in the middle of Nettle 360's rooftop at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, packed. And I'm just sitting there, and she's just singing me this song, and it goes for about 90 seconds. And I'm just like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do now? And then I clapped, saying, like, well done. And then,
great show.
And thank you very much for the performance. and then went, all right, I need to get out of here. This is the moment. And then thankfully a security guard tapped me on the shoulder and said, yeah, we're closing the roof. Everyone needs to go. And I was like, thank you. It was great. Lovely to meet you. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God. This reminds me of a story of so I was seeing this guy for a little bit, but I kind of decided that night I didn't really fancy him anymore. It was cringing me out and everything. And the next morning we both worked in like a similar area, so we jumped on the Central Line on the tube, and as we were walking to the Central Line, he was like to me, oh, it's my morning routine to put my music in and have a bit of a sing when I walk to the station. I was like, okay, go ahead. He goes, here, you can have one headphone. I was like, all right, we're bipodding here. So then he starts walking like this, like walking to the beat. And I was like, right. And then he starts going, closed off from love, I didn't need the pain. Once or twice wasn't it was all in vain. And then like proceeded to sing the whole of Leona Lewis' Bleeding Love while he was trying to hold my hand. And keeping in mind, I've completely gone off this guy. Like, I've got the ick so bad. And
you've got the ick. I've got the ick.
So he started just cringing me out, and I was like, you know what, this is taken a turn to a dark place. I get on the tube, and it just happens that Sam has been on the podcast before. She was my housemate at the time. We do love Sam. She was on there too, just weirdly, like, what are the odds? And she saw me sitting there, and I was white as a ghost, and she was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh my God, Sam, you won't believe what just happened. Because he finished singing Bleeding Love, and I was like, thank God that's over, and we're nearly at the station. And then he just whops on Taylor Swift Love Story. I'm like, this is such a cliche. No.
Oh, come on, mate. Question though, would he been able to turn it around if it was Bleeding Love by the Wombats?
By the Wombats? What? Do they cover that?
They do cover that. It's a bit of a banger. I would recommend.
That's stunning. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I do love the Wombats.
I love that he was marching along to the beat.
Honestly, it was like it was like a triple threat thing, because it actually turned out that he became the gay lover of one of London's most famous morning television presenters that I won't name, but he was a triple threat. So Yeah, that was a really interesting twist. I think I might tell that story on a different podcast, but again, don't want to get sued, so let's just leave it.
I know who you're talking about, though.
We all know. I'm just not going to name names, though. But anyway, so this brings us to our left on red question round, which we kind of haven't really done properly for a while because the podcast has become more of a comedy focus. But I guess, yeah, let's jump into the listener questions that they had about moving to London and how the bloody hell do you do it. So the first question is, what is the best thing about moving to London?
There is so many things just in your own borough as well. Like if you were looking just to stay in like Camden or Shoreditch or something like that, like you could find something to do every night and then let alone before you put the extra 32 boroughs on top of it. It's the city that never sleeps. Like it's unbelievable. And then like if you find a good group of people here, like it's just going to be the best time of your life. Like honestly, like when I first came in, it was dream scenario with, you know, England doing really well in the World Cup. It was 30 degrees every day, which is still like the only thing of London that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Like it was proper Australia, and it was just the best time.
Yeah, I think the best thing for me about moving to London has definitely been the friendships I've made, the people I've met. I think every night you go out, like if it's, you know, every week you go out and you make a whole new group of friends. I mean, obviously not in lockdown. This is very reminiscent of past times, but yeah, like the friendships I made when I first moved here, because I didn't know anyone else. So I just put myself in so many situations where I would just be like, hey, how are you? My name's Mads. Just made so many great friends, like Exhibit A, you and I first meeting in Budapest and then, yeah, happening to both move to London, which was amazing. So I think that, and then in terms of like career progression, so I work in media. So I think learning like a new landscape, like a new market for any industry is incredible because it's just sort of, you realize there's such a big wide world out there and not everything revolves around, you know, the 30 million people or so that live in Australia. And it's like, there's so much more to everything. And yeah, I can't even explain it. Like I've changed so much as a person. You just learn about the world. You learn about so many new things. You have so much fun. Like you can go to all different festivals. You've got Europe on your doorstep to go traveling. Like I would never take it back.
No, I wouldn't either. I think it's genuinely like the best decision I've ever made. Like you said, it feels like anything's possible here. Yeah. Another cliche. We'll mark that down for the wheel counter. But it's like anything is possible. And
yeah,
if you wanted to be in Rome this weekend, not right now, COVID, but you know, if you wanted to be in Rome this weekend and walk the Colosseum, you could do that. Like if you wanted to be in Iceland and see the Northern Lights, like you could do that for all the same price of flying Sydney to Melbourne. It's ridiculous. Like I think it's the best place.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to look back and remember all those times because it seems so out of reach at the moment. But I mean, I'm hoping it's all back to normal next year because yeah, when everything is going well and stuff, it's just, you do get this feeling. Like I always kind of had this feeling while I was growing up and stuff that I wanted to live in a big city because you have more opportunities and you feel like anything's possible. But I actually do feel like that. I feel really fulfilled. I feel like I could, you know, accomplish anything or whatever. And I think also one of the best things about moving abroad is you're in a new city, you don't know anyone, and you sort of have a clean slate. Like you can meet people and just be whoever you want to be. So I think when I moved here, I was recently single. I felt really liberated. Like I just was happy to open myself up and be honest with people and be authentic and just, you know, be loud and be fun and do whatever because you have nothing to lose.
No, and I definitely agree with that. Open up and you know, I was probably in a similar spot to you when I moved over here as well. Like not recently single, but you know, had a little bit of love issues, and then I was from an area where a lot of my really good friends are like all settled and like they're all buying houses and things like that. And I just kind of looked up one day and went, I don't like belong here right now. Yeah. Like I don't fit in. Yeah. And it's very like daunting when you realize that. Luckily I had one of my best mates who just moved to London and I kind of went and jumped onto his bandwagon, but it was like the best decision I've ever made.
For sure. And I think sometimes you can doubt if what you're doing is the right decision because you feel like you've got responsibilities at home and everything. But at the end of the day, like if you look at your life and how small the world is, like thanks to, you know, technology and globalization and everything, it's only, I mean, obviously not in COVID times either, but you're only 24 hours from home. So you can sort of, if anything does go tits up, you can fly home. So I guess to anyone out there listening that is thinking about doing it, but is worried about the distance or the time away or whatever, you can get home pretty easily. Obviously, this is all COVID pending, so I can't actually get home right now. But yeah, you get my point.
No, and you're 100% right. Like it is literally a 24-hour flight in good times. Like,
Uh-huh.
if anything happens, you're literally just a day away.
Yeah.
You're a day away. I mean, not right now.
Yeah.
Scratch right now, but you are a day away from kind of being home to help with anything.
That's quite privileged that we can say that as well, like that we've got savings and families and that can, you know, help in those situations and stuff. So I guess, we're really lucky in that sense. But yeah, realistically, if it's kind of something that you've always been wanting to do, I would definitely recommend it. Best thing I ever did. But in saying that, what do you think the worst thing is about moving to London?
It's definitely like the distance is the worst thing. Like, unfortunately, like I said, a lot of my friends were in serious relationships, buying houses, and unfortunately, like I've had to miss a few of like my oldest friends' weddings just because, you know, like unfortunately, I'm not made of money to be able to fly home every 2 or 3 months for the weddings, and it really sucks, you know, because you know those are the experiences that are happening with like a lot of my close mates, and you know. You're missing the shared stories and things like that. But in a way, you can't let that hamper you from, you know, making yourself happy. Like, I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned from London is like, you know, you've got to put yourself first. And even though it does upset people, like, you know, realistically, if your communication is good, it doesn't affect anyone. Like, they understand.
Yeah, and strangely, I think ever since moving away, my relationships with my family have become stronger than ever because absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like, that's obviously another cliche, but I think it's true in the sense that you want to make the conversations you have worth it. You respect, like, that time's passing and that you've spent a lot of time away and you can understand that. But I feel like you take a lot of things for granted when they're right on your doorstep. So yeah, I think the worst thing about London would definitely have to be, for me, the distance between me and my family, and the distance of and it's the cost as well. So like the cost of getting home, as you said, you can be home in 24 hours, but that's the thing. That's in the case of an emergency. Otherwise, you have to sort of plan things a little bit more rigorously. But other than that, I mean, there would be no downside to me apart from London being sort of like what's Peter Pan's land called? Neverland.
Neverland.
Yeah,
Neverland.
Like no one grows up. Everyone's just in this bubble of fun all the time, which is great until you realize that you're completely sucked in, you're 35 and you can't get out and you're like, oh shit, all of my friends have 10-year-old kids, like they've got houses, they've got all this. So I think, being in that sort of time warp is interesting, but not necessarily a negative thing depending on your personality and what you're wanting to get out of the experience.
Yeah, and like that communication point you made with your family, like definitely that's something that like I've really worked on since I've lived over here. Like sometimes it's been really good, other times it's been, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on a boat in Italy, I can't talk to you right now. But you know, it's something that I think I've gotten a lot better at. And, you know, we've had some strong conversations since I've come over here. So, you know, distance does make the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, definitely. So how else do you think you've changed since moving here? I guess in both a positive and a negative way. So I've been here for 4 years. And did you say you've been here for about 2 years now?
3
years.
Three, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you think you've changed in those 3 years since like when you stepped off the plane fresh-faced and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? How do you think you've changed?
I'm definitely like less naive. Like I was just a young boy full of hope from a small area in Sydney when I first came here. And now I'm like, I feel a lot more responsible in areas that, you know, are like really important for maturing in life. So like, I feel like a lot more mature and not another cliche, that's what we fall for me, but like you feel more worldly, like genuinely, like you really do take into account all those things, and then all the travel and stuff that you have the option of doing, and like there's people that you meet, and like I definitely feel like I'm a lot more confident, even though it's like I live in London. Like you really do like figure yourself out when you do some solo trips, and you've got to figure out how to get to your hostel in Germany, and everything's all the U-Bahn station signs are in German, and you're just kind of walking around like a lost little puppy.
Yeah, for sure. It's sink or swim. I think like the independence you get, it happens really quickly because when you're dropped in the deep end and you're suddenly like, okay, I don't have a job, I don't have a bank, I don't have a house, I don't have any friends. You really just have to kind of take accountability and do all those things yourself. And when you first move over, like I was lucky enough to have a couple of mates that already lived here. So they were sort of like, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. This is how I did it, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, if you don't have a friend here, I can imagine it would be really hard. But that is a massive piece of advice I would give to anyone hoping to move over is join the Facebook groups and communities on Facebook, Aussies in London. Kiwis in London or London New Girl. There's lots of them out there, and everyone in there is in the same boat. There's like a few 100,000 people. There's a lot of Australians and Kiwis living in London, and everyone is really willing to give advice. And that is probably like the biggest tip to just get you started and kind of getting your roots in and just get an idea of what it's like over here, and you can sort of like join those communities. And I think a lot of people that move over join those, and you can find friends on there, like you can find housing on there, you can find lots of advice. So yeah, that is a massive tip, I would say, to anyone hoping to move over. So I guess, how do I think I've changed since moving over here? I suppose in a similar breath to what you said, I was a bit more naive, a bit more, I don't know, doe-eyed, and like seeing the world with rose-colored glasses. Like I was just ready to travel, ready to do all these things. And I had lots of savings because I had been living at my parents' house. So I kind of just came over and was like, rent, whatever, like holidays, whatever, festivals, whatever. But once all of that sort of wears off and you realize you're making roots to like make a new life here and make new friends here and everything, it's kind of becomes a bit more like reality. And then you have to come to terms with the fact that your life is split across 2 hemispheres. Your family and friends will all never probably be in the same room at once because they're so far apart, unless, you had a destination wedding or something, miraculous happened. And yeah, I guess there is all that stuff that you sort of have to deal with. And if you do struggle and you are alone, then that, I think, those sort of things, like learning to get through things on my own, like whether it was being cheated on or whatever it is, you just kind of, in that sense, you have to swim, because if there's no one around, like you've got your friends and stuff, but yeah, if you're feeling quite isolated and alone and stuff, you sort of, I think I've changed in that I'm better at taking care of myself and stuff now. But I guess that's just part of maturing and growing older. I don't know if London has had an effect on that.
It's helped.
It's helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the next question, which is quite fun. What is the weirdest thing that you've seen since moving here? And you told me a story before, which I'm hoping you can share now because it's stunning.
So I was dating this girl from work, and we were keeping it under wraps because office rumors and things like that. And we went out for a birthday, and we're doing this pub crawl, and we as a pub crawl, it's a pretty big sesh. So it was a 12 to 12 sort of thing. It's a solid 12-hour session. We got to about 12 at night, and she's like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's go back to yours. And I was like, beauty, let's roll. So I said, I'll sneak out the front, I'll hide somewhere, and then you say goodbye to everyone because it's your birthday, and we'll get an Uber home. So I sneak down, and I find this apartment block that's got like an under car park sort of underneath car park. So I go down there and I sit down in the underneath car park, waiting for her to text me to say, let's get out of here. So I'm like, beauty. So she texts me, and we're on the way. I'm walking on the way back up, and you know that feeling like when you got chewing gum on your shoe, like something just doesn't feel right. Unfortunately, that was on my bottom, and I realized quickly on the walk up that I'd probably sat in some homeless man's poo.
So you've sat in a homeless guy's poo?
Yeah, I sat in a homeless man's poo, or woman. I mean, everyone can be homeless, but I sat in a homeless person's poo and seemingly cock-blocked myself and unable to get a Uber in the middle of winter in London. So,
work.
Kicking goals.
Kicking goals, yeah. I think something that is one of the strangest things that you see in London when you move here is, so my friend Sam, she's a vegetarian, she used to be vegan. Something that really bothers her is that there's just chicken bones all around London. So everywhere you go, there's just like a fried chicken, like just a leg or an arm or arm. Do chickens have arms? A wing?
A wing. Yeah,
just
that's
sitting
the one
around London,
for.
and she just sees it and she's like, oh, carcasses everywhere. Like, this is so not vegetarian friendly. So that's one funny thing.
Can I add that to my best things in London? The chicken shops that are everywhere and so cheap.
Yeah, chicken shops are amazing. Kebab shops are amazing. I think the weirdest thing I've seen since moving here, one of the weirdest things, I was trying to think, but there's just so many. I think seeing someone get stabbed at Notting Hill Carnival, that was pretty messed up.
That's pretty full.
Yeah, I think, I guess just the stuff that you see in like all the parks in London in summer, they're sort of like mini festivals of their own in places like London Fields and that. Everyone's just out there to have a good time and have a bit of a party and a bit of a sesh and stuff. So yeah, you do see some pretty wild stuff there. But yeah, I think that guy getting stabbed at Notting Hill Carnival was pretty earth-shattering.
Yeah.
So
if you're moving to London, Notting Hill Carnival in the day, don't stay longer than 9.
Yeah,
Get out of
it's not for you, hun.
there.
But yeah, so our last question is, and this is kind of a massive question, I've tried to summarize it as best I can, is how the hell do you move to London? So I've put together the big 5. So what I like to call the big 5, and this is the 5 things that you need to do if you're going to move here. So the first thing is, as I said before, join those Facebook groups. Join Aussies in London, Kiwis in London, London New Girl. I will link them in the episode description. And if you are planning to move over, definitely join them. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, how the hell do you get a place? So download Spare Room. It's an app, or go on their Spare Room website. You can start looking while you're in Australia, and with video calls being so normal now, you can video chat people you'd potentially live with. I'd say start looking a month before you come over. Or if even better, if you have a mate you can stay with when you arrive, you can be a bit more flexible and just look when you get here. I think if you just kind of relax about the whole thing, like don't let it stress you out. And ideally, if you come over after living in Australia, you'd probably have a bit of savings so you can do some traveling and stuff too without having to tie yourself down and get some rent. But did you have any other advice on that point?
And it goes to the group that you joined. Aussies in London, they do post short-term and long-term leases. So even if you need just a place for the first 4 weeks in London, you can find something probably a little bit easier from some of their listings, and maybe that's a way of kind of setting up yourself. And a way I probably look back and think about, maybe I should have done that, is just get a short-term lease for a month and know that I've got it, and then go from there.
For sure. And I think as well, a lot of people talk about the London renting triangle. So if you imagine a triangle, the 3 points on the triangle are cheap rent, nice flat, and short commute. You can only have 2.
And yeah, if you can find if anyone finds the triangle and they tell you they found the triangle, they're usually lying.
They're usually lying, or they're wrong.
Yeah, see it in person.
No, yeah, go see it in person. It's too good to be true. You will never find all 3. It's really hard. Next thing is, how do you find a job? So when you're job hunting, there's loads of recruitment companies that will help you to find a job in your field. So make sure your LinkedIn and your CV are all up to date before moving here. Start reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn, and you can set your preferences on LinkedIn to searching for a job in London, and it will actually notify recruiters that you're looking, and they can reach out to you as well. So I think when you get here, focus on getting a house and a bank first. And then, yeah, I think you can pretty much wait until you're here to start doing interviews and that kind of thing. But I mean, who knows, in a COVID world, it's probably a lot more easy to do virtually as well. So
yeah, and that's a great point. Like for me, when I was coming over, I like I'd already started my career back in Sydney, but I rinsed all my networks in London, English people that had moved to Sydney, and I was like, yeah, I'm moving. Text someone that I'm coming.
Yeah.
Get work a network if you've got.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just leaning on the people that you know that have connections. Like people is everything when you're moving abroad. Like you're going to need to have connections, have friendship, have relationships to do anything when you're moving, and you're going to be by yourself. So make sure you're just reaching out. You don't have to be shy about it. Just connect with anyone that you can that can help you out, and people are more willing to help you than you'd think, I guess.
No, exactly right. No. People have a lot of good hearts, so yeah.
Okay, so 4th point, how do you join a bank in the UK? So it is quite difficult to join a bank if you don't have a job or an address when you first get here, but obviously you need a bank to get paid, and you need a bank to get a house. So it's kind of a catch-22 with doing this. So what I would recommend is Monzo. It's an online bank. It's an app. You don't really need any references or anything to get it. And it will really help you out in terms of, setting up a bank when you get here so you can get paid and you can get a flat. But I don't know. Did you have any other tips on that, Will?
So yeah, no, Monzo is good. Everyone's got it. And once you realize that everyone has it, you'll love it, because it's so easy to transfer your mate's money when you're on a night out and things like that. It's the best app. Another one that you can use as well is Monese, it's called. It's Monese.
Monies.
For those listeners. Monies, exactly. Yeah. But it's very much like Monzo, but yeah, just not as well known.
Yep. Perfect. So that would be my recommendation. And the 5th recommendation is join a doctor. So it's so different to Australia. Basically, if you live in an area, you can only go to the doctor in that area. They call it a surgery. There's no surgery involved. It's very confusing, but join a doctor. So Pretty much when you move over, you pay the NHS fee, so you are covered. It's the same as Medicare. Basically, I was at a party when I first moved over here. I sliced my leg open on a shoe buckle, and you could full on see like the fat in the leg, like it was fucked up. And everyone's like, "That's cool. Just go to the doctors and they'll stitch it up." I was like, not joined to a doctor, so I was full on asking like nurse friends. I was asking seamstresses. I was just gonna sew it up myself. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I had to go to a music festival like 2 days later, and I had this gaping wound that it has left a scar in the end, but it's kind of gone now. But I had to wear long ass socks that covered my entire calf and long like Wellingtons, which are like gumboots, to cover it and keep dirt out of it, because it was a 3-day festival in Reading, and it was a disaster.
God.
It didn't get infected or anything, thank God. But yeah, definitely join a doctor. So find out the doctor that's in your area, in your postcode, and you need to sign up to it. Will, you have something to reveal here.
So I only signed up to a doctor. I've been living here for three years, but I only signed up to a doctor last week after I saw that you got your vaccination order.
It's a pandemic, Will. You need to sign up to the doctor.
I drink a lot of water.
No.
No. It's definitely been like the gaping missing part of my big five for moving to London. Like,
you were living with the big four out of the big five for 3 years, and you've only just sorted the big five things.
My life's complete now.
It's complete.
I've ticked it. I've sorted London.
So to recap quickly, if you're out there listening and you're hoping to move to London, 1, join the Facebook groups. 2, get on Spare Room, the app or the website to find a house. 3, update your LinkedIn and your CV and start reaching out to recruiters. 4, join Monzo if you need a bank. And 5, join a bloody doctor. Will, join a doctor.
I have.
A week ago.
Vaccine coming soon.
Vaccine TBC. By the way, guys, I'm vaccinated, which is very exciting. So Mads World is safe and ready to continue post-pandemic.
Hopefully Mads World gets the first crack at Australia if the quarantine rules change.
I know. I'll be back over there and I can help. Also, if any of you out there listening are actually my good friends, you are welcome to stay with me in London when you arrive. Should have said that earlier. If you're a random, you're less welcome, but get in touch. We'll see.
It has to be a good request.
It has to be a good request, and you have to offer me something. Maybe you can pay for my food. We'll see. Anyway, so, Will, that is all of our questions, and you've been an amazing guest with lots of good insight. So thank you so much for joining the show.
Oh, thanks, man. I've been dying to get on, so I feel very honoured to be a member of the guest list.
Hooray! And you are, I think, our second straight male guest. So if you're out there listening and you're a straight male, please get in touch. I really want to have more straight men on the show, but it turns out, weirdly, that straight men, despite their mansplaining ways and how much they love to talk, none of you want to go on the podcast, so...
That really like lightening the stigma of men holding everything inside. So come on, boys, open up.
Seriously, open up and come on Mads World. Tell us what you really think. Love to hear it. I'd love to have an argumentative podcast. Come on here if you disagree with me. If you hate me, come on the show. Let's make it fun.
Exactly. That's some good listening there.
That would be some good drama listening. Anyway, okay, I will chat to you soon, Willie.
You take care. See ya.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed my chat with lovely Will. Please get in touch with me if you have any stories or thoughts of your own to share. And don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the podcast. Love and elbow taps. Peace.